part 3 of what we regret the most. I'm a psychologist, psychotherapist, coach. I've worked for 30 years globally with all different kinds of people. And I teach self-mastery, how you master what you think, what you feel, and what you do, so you can have a life of thriving. No hacks, true, real happiness, fulfillment, and success on your terms. I work for you. I'm unaffiliated. My name's Poppy. Take what you want, leave what you don't. Part 1 and 2, you can see here. Compulsive conformity, my mum's teacher, Moreno, used to say, is the greatest sickness in our society, doing what other people do. And I'll give you an example in the hope that you can, maybe, if you choose, release yourself from any kind of binding that you're doing currently that is preventing you from living your life. Again, Bonnie Ware, palliative care nurse, she said, top regrets of the dying. 5. And 2 of the 5 involve the words, I wish I had the courage to. Top regret of the dying, I wish I had the courage to live my life rather than the life I thought other people wanted of me. Does that resonate? Dying statement of the masses. An example is, I know a guy's got a young boy, probably just 11 years old, who recently, he's getting into doing his hair. Did his hair all kind of fluffed up and new. And went to school, and his friends laughed at him. So when he returned home from school, he didn't have his new individualized hairdo. It was back down the way it was. Back down the way it was. Shame. I am bad. I imagine there was shame in that kid's day. How about you? For me, I will never forget it. The first day, where I remember anyway, that I turned on myself, I abandoned myself because I wanted to fit in. Can you remember the day you did it? A dying statement. I wish I had the courage to live mine. I was at school, I was about 9, 10, 11. A lot younger maybe. And our teacher, so imagine a big court, tennis court inside the school. And all of the class would go to one end of the court or the other end, depending on the answers to his questions. This answer, that answer. And he asked a question, and I knew the answer, and that was kind of rare for me. I knew it, and I went and stood at the end. I was there, and all the other kids were lined up away from me, all of them. And I stood there contemplating my life and what would happen if I continued to be alone in my choice. And slowly but surely, my shoulders dropped and I walked to where everybody else was. And I remember passing Mr. Jenkins, his name was. And I remember he shot me a look, and there was a whole conversation in that look that I recall, which was, I see you and I get you. You're now going to lie so that you don't get kicked out of the tribe. And it was like this mix of empathy and identifying with me, and well, that's a massive breach of personal integrity, isn't it, Bops, as I'm walking down as my 8-year-old self or whatever it is. And I proceeded to spend probably another decade doing that crap. Compulsive conformity. Equally, Dr. Robert Lefevre, he's an addiction specialist and brilliant man. He's still around. You might want to look him up and say thank you for this. He said, people pleasing, compulsive helping is the most acceptable addiction in our culture. Normalized. So this series has been about what we regret, and it's essentially not having the courage to ... fill in the blank. And as a clinician, what I know is about middle-aged people come to me generally because of this. In some kind of way, you have contorted yourself, cut bits off of you, lied, coped, And then you hit a threshold of change, usually a breakdown or a symptom that is just too intolerable, or sometimes it's young kids with eating disorders or human issues. Usually it's sort of around mid-age though, men, women, groups, organisations, the culture change. Somebody will get hold of me and say the culture of our organisation is absolutely up the spout, could you help? Yes. What's it costing you? What are the costs and consequences? Because you're human, and I'm saying that because I get it. I know nobody's immune to gaslighting from culture, institutional gaslighting from your parents, loved ones, and so on. I'm a couples therapist too. That's extraordinary what we do with each. I didn't say that. No, I didn't. It wasn't that day. No, it wasn't. That's not what I meant. You think this and stuff. We're groomed to be unintegrous, no integrity, scared, threatened, and rebuff feedback. So if this is what I love to do, I'm going to walk in the sun, because why not? If I were to meet you and you're asking for my help, you're consenting, and there's certain thing that you're doing, and I feel that might trip you up, because that's why people don't pay you well or respect you, or that's why women take advantage, or that's why you hate you, or whatever. And I might say, I'm aware that you screw your face up when you say certain things, so you're aware of that. And a lot of people, we're not aware of our presentation. Why would we be? And again, because of a lack of courage, we don't reflect back to people what we see and what we experience. So for example, there's somebody have a meeting and they're very disrespectful, and they get away with it, which bullies often do, because they intimidate people. And if you know anything about me, I'm for justice for all, and not, anal about it, that everybody has to do so. However, there are certain thresholds which if you cross, that's a boundary violation in my world, which will be, hang on a minute, I just ask that we take a pause here a minute. I'm experiencing you as something, whatever it might be. It's very powerful and empowering when you trust someone for them to be able to feed back to you. Who's done something with me like that? Well, the only thing that comes to mind, but I'm sure there's a lot of it, is a teacher of mine at school once, a professor actually at university. She said, I notice you don't talk when the men are here. I knew that. However, I didn't know it was that obvious. I thought I was the best actress in the world. How about you? Are you worthy of an Oscar or two? Because I'm fine. Not a problem. No, I don't have a problem. No, I'll do that. That's fine. Denial, avoidance, dismissal, and all the things. My question is, what is it doing to you, your quality of life, and your relationships? Do people actually know you? And this is the travesty with mental health issues, or particularly with men when they're in trouble, is oftentimes, and studies show that 50% of men say they have no friends. And what I mean by that is people you speak truthfully to about your life, without barriers and edits. Oftentimes when people go, when they suicide, other people didn't know what was going on, because we don't speak to it, which isn't because of a mental health problem at their end, in my opinion. It's because of a gaslighting, institutional gaslighting system in our world that says, don't be you. Be how we are. Compulsive conformity, the sickest issue with our society. Jacob Moreno. How's it working at your end? We get to release this stuff. Can you imagine if you and I were at school together and we were taught throughout our schooling that emotions, all of them, are valid, justified, there are messages in the emotions. When we feel something, it's telling us something about what's okay and what's not okay for us. However, the important piece is what you do with the emotion, because then that can be damaging to you and other people. However, you're an individual in your own right, we have 1 in 400 trillion chance of being here, looking like this, with this genetic makeup, born to the parents we are and so on. We are that unique, 1 in 400 trillion. You do you, boo. What do you need in order to learn in a way that's interesting to you? What kind of tools can we support you with for the makeup of your brilliant brain so that you can conceive of new ideas and be free to be creative and wise and wonderful in your way? How do you like to dress? How do you like your hair? Without us laughing at it or scolding you or being threatened by it. Can you imagine what you would be doing in the world today? Your bank balance, the people in your life, what your body would look like, the kind of food and drink and so on you would be eating, the kind of holidays, the kind of passion, vision, mission and purpose you would be incorporating into your world. If you had an education about the rules for thriving, not to be a skeletal version of the real you and end up again on your deathbed like the masses that say, I wish I'd had the courage to live my life. Consider it. I'm a healthcare professional. The only reason really people come to me is because of the amount of collateral damage there has been because of compulsive conformity and a global system, a global culture that says, don't be you, or be you, but not like that. And if you are, we will in some kind of way shame you, dismiss you and so on until you stop doing it. And a few of us are that mad that we break out. And as I say to people often when they call me mad, or I have psychiatric patients sometimes, clients sometimes, or just people who generally have been gaslit. And they say, well, people call me weird and blah, blah, blah. And I say, well, maybe my standard stock response might be a good standby mantra for you, which is thank you for noticing. If this compulsive conformity, shut everybody down, shame everybody that's different kind of world is normal, thank you for noticing I'm not. You could consider for yourself what are the costs and consequences of you cutting bits off of you in your relationships, in your work, your heart, how it feels to be on planet Earth as a dumbed down, dulled down version of you. Are you living out loud? Or are you just living? It doesn't have to cost you a fortune in psychotherapy to have a good life. In fact, we could rebuff whatever the word is, the shame that's attached to, oh, you have to go. A client said that to me once. She said, oh, something like this. I'm going to have to do more therapy with you. And I said, well, you could look at it that way. Or you could see it as, I get to explore more of myself with you in the coaching and psychotherapy and so on that we're doing, so that I can master the makeup of me and have a fucking good life. Or you could pathologize yourself that you're so sick and twisted that blah, blah, blah. Or you could just say, you know what, I've got good standards, high ones. And I'd like to release myself from all the things that have hurt me and all the things that prevent me from going for what I want, so that I can feel good in who I am and be clear about my objectives, my goals, and what I need to do in order to achieve them, to enjoy myself and be the best possible person and version I can be. And she was like, okay, let's do that. When do we start? Like, follow all the things. If you'd like a part 4, let me know. Big love.